With all the big calls on all the big races, welcome back to What a Shout, brought to you by the Racing Post, sponsored by Betfred and hosted today, unusually, by me, Racing Post editor Tom Kerr. I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by the yin and yang of racing tipping, Paul Kealy and Robbie Wilders. How are you doing, gentlemen?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. Looking forward to it.
Excellent. Paul, you were banging in the winners at Goodwood.
Yeah,
how's it gone? Have you continued the hot streak?
I haven't done much in the early part of the week. So no.
Just generally?
No, but it's just I've done nothing basically. Put my feet up. No. It was great to have a festival where I actually banged in at least one winner every day, which is almost at least one winner more than I did at whole festivals at Cheltenham
and at Goodwood as well. I mean,
and Ascot. Yeah. No, Goodwood was one that I've always liked, to be honest. You know, I always think that it's actually easier than the other ones.
Okay.
But.
It's more difficult, so it's perversely.
Yeah, it seems more difficult.
Gets
for
out
other
the
people.
chances.
But yeah, it's for some reason, it's my sort of meetings. You know, sometimes you have good meetings and bad, but I've always liked that one. And it worked well for once.
Good man. Robbie, you missed Goodwood because you were celebrating an important life milestone. Tell us about it.
The viewers might not believe it, but I've just turned 30. So I know I look a little bit younger, but
just going to be 10 years of vegan or something.
5-year anniversary approaching for that. But I missed a lot of, because we booked the holidays, I didn't really look at the exact weeks I booked them. I ended up missing all of Goodwood. I was on a cruise ship, so I've had a lot to catch up on.
Where did you cruise?
Around Spain, so you did like Barcelona, Cadiz, Valencia, did a bit of Marseille as well.
Very nice.
Yeah, it was lovely, I'd recommend.
And did you first cruise?
This is fifth.
Fifth cruise?
The Wilders family are quite into them. Yeah. It's been a throwback. It's my first one in like 8 years.
Okay,
so,
excellent.
They're good value. I'd implore anyone to look into them.
Look into the cruiser. Are you a cruising man?
I've been once.
Have you?
Did a med cruise.
What cruise line did you go?
12 years ago. That was Royal Caribbean.
There are other cruise lines available, everyone. To be clear. Maybe like river cruising. I could see you in the river cruising.
No. We thought about doing the fjords once, but Mrs. K doesn't particularly like cold weather. She hates it.
Did you have a good experience?
I might have to do that on my own.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it.
Relaxing, isn't it?
Yeah, it was really good, yeah.
Matt, have you... sorry, I should introduce you properly. Matt, I'm so sorry. You can tell I'm new to this. Matt Hulmes from Betfred. Have you celebrated any important life milestones lately?
No, I've got the big 4-0 coming up, which makes me pretty jealous of Robbie. But I'm more of a Santa Cruz man than Cruise Line. Although I tell you what, he could have sailed down Goodwood the amount of rain we had last week there. So he wouldn't have been too far out of place.
Oh, it's shocking, wasn't it? Absolutely.
You can't be too jealous of Robbie anyway. He doesn't eat meat
or fish
or cheese.
I'll be honest.
Let's not list all the things Robbie doesn't eat. We hear
let me level with you. The cruise vegan selection wasn't great, so I did sort of deviate into a bit of cheese. So I actually slid off. I didn't have the nerve to tell my brother and dad, who are very hard vegans. I actually secretly ate some cheese.
Now you've broken it to them.
It's exclusive.
What a shout! Wow.
They don't like races, so they're going to see it. So.
Okay.
They might go back to them.
The secret is safe. Okay. We're going to get cracking. We're going to look into the weekend's racing. It's Shergar Cup weekend. Fantastic. But just before we do that, if you yourself are celebrating an important life milestone and want to get yourself a present, what about Racing Post Members Club? Okay, we are going to start at Haydock tomorrow. It's the London Mile Series qualifier. It's a 16-runner race. It's wide open. Matt, how does Betfred see it?
It's the Betfred's Play £5 million handicap, Tom. That's what it is. We were 5 places on this. I'll go through the offers, by the way. We're 4 places online on all the Shergar Cup races. We'll look at a couple of them later. But we're 5 places on this one. Poet Master unbeaten, 2 from 2. is at 4-1. He's on a hat-trick, as is, of course, I Love Jour. He's gone up a stone for that last win at 9-2. He missed his engagement last week at Goodwood. I thought Katab was interesting for mark of 85. He's done some really big maidens. He started off in the Wood Ditton. He's a good third at York. And then ran below expectations at Sandown. But that form doesn't look too shabby now. And then got his confidence boost. I thought off 85 and well drawn in 4 Katab. And a big price as well. Helm Rock, Richard Kingscote, Betfred Ambassador on board. He's got to get across from stall 10, but he's well handicapped on his Sandown efforts early on in the season. So I thought he was a big price if he can get to the front. Katab for me, but yeah, what a way to start, wide open with 5 places each.
Absolutely. Fascinating race. What do you think, Hills?
Yeah, well, funny, you got the horse like Poet Master, only run twice in his life, won both. It's the automatic horse that I want to oppose when I go into looking at races like this, because they got no handicap form and all that. And I tried really hard, but I'm very, very tempted by the 5-1. I think he could be very well handicapped. I mean, we gave him, I think, a racing post rating of 102. For his second run in novice company. He gets in here on a mark of 92. He absolutely gagged up on the course last time by 5 lengths. He's down 75 yards from the line. The third, who was getting £7, was third to Isle of Jura, who's favourite. Now, admittedly, Isle of Jura was giving him £13, but he was beat him 3 and a bit lengths, and Poet Master beat him 6 lengths. He's down, and you know, I just think that's really, really solid form, and he's a horse that, you know, he's run to a level like that, having been eased down so far from the line. He's well into the hundreds already, I reckon, and he's running off 92. So I think it's a very, very fair price at 5-1.
So it sounds like plenty of confidence there.
I would say plenty of confidence. There are other horses of interest. Isle of Jura is obviously very interested himself. He was due to run at Goodwood under a penalty, and everyone thought it was a good thing, but the ground got very soft, so he didn't want that. Now there are showers around, and it's good to soft, so he might not want conditions as they are. Katab, like Matt said, is interested in the solid one, the solid elder handicapper one is Hafi Allen, who's been first and second on his last 2 starts. Got Conor Planis on, claiming 5. He's a talented jockey, and the horse is very much in form and well handicapped on old form, even off his mark of 92. But I just have a little feeling that Poet Master is just going to be better than these.
Okay, Robbie, what do you think?
Yeah, he was the first one I was attracted to. I mean, the fact he's run on 202 second time out, that's very hard to do, not in a group race. So you got to take note of that. But I wonder if our handicappers might have gone a little bit overboard. That form's not really worked out too well. Only one horse has won since. A lot have been well beaten. And he's obviously very inexperienced. Double figures, I quite like Bodogan. He ran well over the course and distance on his return in the Silver Cup. He's only had fast ground this year. He's been beaten favourite twice, but he's down a couple of pounds on the weights. And all his forms of juveniles on softer ground. I think he's going to like it a little bit slower. So double figures, he'd be where I was looking.
I don't know what the Racing Post handicappers will think of the accusation that they've
I
gone
don't know who I was calling out there, whether it's Steve or Johnny.
The thing about the RP handicappers, they'll always tell you there's like a 15 or 20% margin of error on any race, and they will go back and look at and change depending on how things work.
Exactly that, because myself and Graham Robbo handicap the staying race on the flat, and we change things sometimes.
Yeah, you do.
So we admit we get carried away sometimes.
Yeah, well, people might not know that about you, that you're an auxiliary handicapper as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mention it every now and then, but it is a small part of my remit nowadays.
One of many talents.
Talking of handicap, there is one more that's worth an interest at a massive price, and that's Helm Rock, who in May was second at Sandown off a mark of 92 to Indemnify. I think the third went on to be fourth in the Royal Hunt Cup. It was a good piece of form. He hasn't matched that since, but he's always run well for Richard Kingscote, and he is 1 from 1 at Haydock and down to a mark of 88. He's not he's handicapped to play a hand if he comes back to that sort of form.
Okay. We'll move on to our second race. I'm not going to forget the sponsor this time. It's the Betfred Rose of Lancaster Stakes. Matt, apologies for my previous error. Tell us how you see this one.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, Al Arsenal is one of the stories of the season, the way he ran at Newbury, considering the massive drift that he undertook that day. So he's in it at 15-8 to confirm the form of Phantom Flight, who's at 8-1. Godolphin got King of Conquest at 3-1, and got Zini on board Savvy Victory at 5-1. I really like Midnight Mile. I think she's a cracking little mare. She's a cracking little filly. But she's unlucky in the Musadora. I'm not sure what happened at Ascot. Maybe it's a mile and a half, but she absolutely annihilated him back at York last time out. And in a race that obviously is Al-Arsi's probably to lead, I thought she may be the one that maybe will give it one Al-Arsi most to do. But I don't know which Al-Arsi is going to turn up. Say he's a massive drifter, but did it quite nicely at Newbury. But is he a bit of a thinker? He's an interesting one, isn't he?
Robbie, I can't get away from the favourite here. What do you think?
Yeah. What was that?
Put
you on the spot.
I asked the questions here.
I can get away from him. He's been beaten at short odds. I know he returned 130 last time, but he was odds on earlier on. He's been beaten at short prices a lot in his career, and he doesn't really find anything off the bridle. I've just never really liked the horse. I mean, he's probably the most talented horse in the race, but I prefer Midnight Mile, much like Matt, getting all the allowances as a 3-year-old filly. On the cusp of Group 1 level as a 2-year-old, sort of missed the break in the Breeders' Cup, stayed on into 4th. That was a good run, it was only the 3rd start. Is annoying part being on the cruise. I would have almost certainly backed her to win at York in 28th of July, but I've missed that 8-1 winner.
There's no bank facilities on the cruise.
Nah, well, there's Wi-Fi, but it's £28 a day.
Right.
That's a bit extortionate, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it depends how confident you are in your selection, I suppose. Doesn't it
Yeah.
really put you on the spot if you got £28?
I didn't even know she was running because this was like well into the cruise. But I mean, she's won. I've watched the race back. Obviously, now I've caught up, and she won it really well. Won it eased down, beat 4 horses rated in the hundreds. I like 3-year-olds unexposed in these kind of races, and I think she's a good bet to beat Al-Arsi.
Potentially one for Betfred as well. Betting shops and cruise ships.
Yeah, there's a casino, but
yeah,
there's something for Betfred to look into.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah,
I mean, the cruise ship's got about just about everything else. Like it's got like a cinema and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah,
but, yeah, something to look into.
Keels, how do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, Al-Arsi is one of those funny horses that he just, he's so talented, but he is a bit of a loon. I mean, that's why he was 8-11, I think, opening show last time, and he ended up 130 in it. He'd gone out to like 5-1, I think it was on the exchanges at one point, and it was just, it was mad to see. I started that day wanting to lay him all day long, and ended up backing him. Because he'd gone to a silly price. I won't back him at 15-8 because, like Robbie said, I just don't trust him. I think he is the most talented horse in the race. I do think it's a much better race than last time, though. Phantom Flight is okay, but he's 5th favourite out of the 6 here. I was quite interested in Savvy Victory because he's a small field horse with a turn of foot who likes a bit of cut in the ground, but. So that's the one I'm going for. I wouldn't rule out El Drama running well as well for Carl Burke. It's his first run for Carl Burke. I'm joined from Roger Varian. Some good form last year. Only beaten 3.5 lengths in the QE2. Was second in the Grade 1 in March at Maidan. Lost his form a little bit, but we know these trainer switches can work out. He's had them for a couple of months. Savvy Victory's the main bet though because he picked up really well at Sandown last time. He likes a bit of cut in the ground. That form's every bit as good as what Al-Arsi did last time, if not as good as what Al-Arsi is capable of. So I just give him the nod, but I think I'm going to back El Drama as well.
Okay. We're going to go on to the Shergar Cup, or the first of our Shergar Cup races next. But before we focus in on a single race, I wanted to have a quick word about the jockeys lining up, guys, because that's always one of the most interesting things for me about the Shergar Cup is we see some riders who we don't ordinarily see on these shows. A couple of interesting ones this year. Moriera, the Magic Man, Hong Kong wizard who made all those records out in Hong Kong, first time riding here for 5 years. And then multiple German champion jockey from Kazakhstan, Borzan Mirzabayev.
Oh, he's been practicing.
I literally contacted our France correspondent and I said, give me a phonetic pronunciation for this. And he sort of said, I think it's this. So who knows? It sounds good.
I read it as Barazan Mirzabayev when I googled it online on the pronunciation.
Where did you?
But I may have.
Well, we'll get into that later because I struggled to find resources for the phonetic pronunciation of Kazakh names. But if you've got a good website, then we'll compare notes afterwards. 45 winners from 206 rides since arriving in France, where he's riding for André Fabre. He'll be an interesting one to see. What do we think about the riders on show tomorrow?
Well, personally, to watch new people, I think it's really good. I think punters, and I'm one of them, are less sure because it's just another unknown. it's another excuse to make for your bet losing, I suppose, as well. You'll see it. If you go on social media, you'll get people moaning about the ride that so and so gave so and so tomorrow. That is what will happen. Now, personally, it's always about the horse for me anyway. So I have never ever backed a horse because a jockey is riding it. I've never ever not backed a horse because a certain jockey is riding it. It's just about the horse. So that's how I treat it. But I mean, it's good to see these names. I mean, and can I refer to him as just that guy instead? If he's got that strike rate in France, he's pretty damn good.
The Kazakh wizard.
Yeah, exactly. He's pretty good. And Magic Man rode a double the last time he was here at this meeting. So yeah, I don't worry. I just back what I fancy and trust them to do the job.
How about you, Robbie?
Yeah, it's interesting because Tom Seagull would do the opposite, wouldn't he? He puts a lot of credence into jockeys. I'm more like Keels. I look for the horse first, but I think at Ascot it's an obvious concern that a lot of these guys haven't ridden there before. Like Kazuo Yokoyama, the Japanese ace, hasn't ridden there either. Because at Ascot sometimes the jocks go too hard, don't they? And then it sets up for the closers. That seems to happen there more than anywhere else. So that's something to watch out for.
Matt, do you guys sort of factor these the relative experience levels of the jockeys into your pricing for these markets, and tell us again once you've covered that how you're pricing up the 320, the first of our Shergar Cup races?
Yeah, we certainly do, and as Robbie mentioned, Tom Seagull's a massive advocate, isn't he, of the jockey on board, and especially the Ascot. We see how Royal Ascot time and time again how many horses are unlucky in running. We bang on about how good Jamie Spencer is there, how good Hayley Turner is there. So it isn't. Although it looks fair and it's wide open, it doesn't look like it's the easiest track to ride. So I think experience is key. But I mean, I agree. I always look at the horse first, anyway, and obviously the jockey's an added bonus. But the girls have won 3 of the last 7 Shergar Cups, and they've got a brilliant lineup, haven't they? Hayley Turner again. She is Miss Shergar Cup. Saffie Osborne is absolutely brilliant. She's red hot this last month, and she's dominated the racing league. And then the third wheel is Ollie Doyle, Group 1 winning jockey. So I think it'll be really hard to beat again. But yeah, move on to the 320. As I said, we're 4 places on all of the Shergar Cup races online. And Perotto, Paul Kealy's favourite horse, he probably bought this by now, is a favourite in there at 2-1 under the jockey, Tom, you so eloquently stated a little bit earlier, Roger Varian. 6-1 Silent Film as well. And then Escobar. I mean, I know he's got 3 ducats next to his name, but this is his lowest mark for 4 years. We know he's off the £5 low mark that won the Balmoral last year, and I just mentioned that Saffie Osborne is on board. There's a little bit of pace in the race. We know likes to come off a strong pace. So, although there's only 6-1 with uninspiring form figures, that lowest mark for 4 years is certainly tempting me in. So yeah, but say we're 4 places. Let's go back to 3 places on the Betfred Road of Lancaster as well. But yeah, as I said before, Tom, it was about looking at the horses, but I think you have to factor in the jockeys at somewhere like Ascot.
Thanks, Matt. This is a fascinating race. Where else can we start, Keels? But Perotto, you tipped him for the Hunt Cup and he lost. I was at Sandown where you told an entire room of people that you weren't backing it, but it was therefore going to win, and it duly did, and sort of perversely it was one of your great tipping successes of the year. Okay. Are you backing Perotto, Keels?
No, probably not, but I will wait and see what happens in the earlier races, because the big issue with him is the ground. Now, he's not a soft ground horse. He did run with credit in the Golden Mile, went 7th last week, but it's still a long way off his best form, which is on quicker ground. And the reason I mentioned the ground is Ascot were calling it soft, good to soft in places on Thursday morning. But they threw out a going stick reading of 4.7, and they have never run a flat meeting on a going stick reading that low. That is indicative of heavy. It'd be heavy over jumps. And obviously it's going to be higher after 2 dry days, but it was still only 5.1 this morning, which is way lower than it was at the King George meeting, where most people were saying the ground was softer than given anyway. So we're just going to have to wait and see. The round course does dry out a lot slower than the straight course, obviously. So I don't think the ground is going to suit him. There's a massive difference of opinion. Some bookies are as short as 13.08 about him. He's still very well handicapped on his old form for sure, but I'm not touching him at that price with the ground. So I've looked elsewhere. I've backed Positive Impact at a big price. He's got no chance on 2 runs this season, but they were both in Maidan. The second one was on dirt. So I'm quite happy to throw them away. And he was a massive improver for Simon Edwards last season. Improving on turf, on soft ground, on fast ground, on the all-weather. He absolutely hosed up in his final race last year on the all-weather. I think he's still well treated on that if he comes back. He's got Hayley Turner on board. She always rides a winner at the Shergar Cup meeting pretty much every year. And, you know, the stable is in very good form as well, and he's a double-figure price in the place. I don't think he's quite as big with Betfred, but I thought he was a big price. And if the ground is on the easy side, Empire State of Mind has got a big chance as well. It's not all about Perotto, especially if the ground is soft.
How do you see it, Robbie?
Yeah, I agree with Keel's. Perotto short enough on these conditions. I don't think it's a very deep race, to be honest. Like, he probably is the best handicapped horse in the field, but just on that ground, I'd have to leave him at a short price. The horse I like didn't even come up on the graphic, actually. Fox Tau.
Wow,
rank
okay.
outside of the field.
Yeah.
A bit like Escobar, he's down to his lowest mark in a long time. This is his lowest ever mark, 101. But we know he's got the back class. He was fourth in the Champion Stakes a few years ago on soft ground. Just wonder if he might be revitalised sort of after a bit of a break, coming back to Ascot. He's also finished midfield in a couple of Wolferton's listed races. As I said, I don't think this is the biggest race. Magic Man, Moreira, not the worst book in the world, and as the outside of the field, he makes a bit of each way appeal.
Outside of the field, yes, indeed. Yes. Fair play. The enigma himself, Fox Tau. We're going to move on, and we're off to Newmarket now for the Sweet Solera Stakes. Carl Burke runs Fallen Angel. What a season he's having. It's pretty tight at the top, though, Matt. Does Carl Burke's horse lead your betting?
Yeah, she does. Yeah, you're right. Especially with the juveniles, Carl Burke's absolutely electric this season. And it's both Antiprana, the second, third from the Star Stakes at Sandown, who are 3-2-1. But of course, that form was let down a little bit, wasn't it? With Gray's Inn getting beaten in that nursery at Goodwood off a mark in the 70s. So that's a little bit of a question mark over that Sandown form. It's 4-1 then. Caroline Reaper for Charlie Johnson, the Godolphin horse, Wild Goddess, 9-2. William Buick on board, already won, of course, at Newmarket. And then the one that I'm going to have a little squeak with, it is Jabari. You can put a line through a Royal Ascot run because so many Roger Varians disappointed there. Thinking of Eldor Eldarov, Sakir. She was another one that was well touted. If you go back to her win on the Road Mile, which looked really impressive, and she was all the rage for the Albany at one point, I think that's worth sticking to. And the 15-30, she's been a forgotten horse. So with a couple of question marks against the two market leaders, I'd throw a dart in at her, and hopefully the dead eight do go to post. But yeah, it's 3-2 on the field. Just a little bit of a wide open lot, but personally, I thought the front two may be worth taking.
How do you see it, Robbie? Really interesting race.
Yeah, it is. I always find these juvenile races quite tough. I was initially drawn to Carolina Reaper because the Johnston stable have such a good record in it. The last 5 years, they've had 3 winners, a second and a third, and the same trainer won this last year, Lakota Sioux. I don't know about her really because I'm not sure the Chesham form is that great. It was very slowly run. A couple of horses have been beaten at short prices since. The Newmarket maiden win, nothing special. I appreciate she's done it over this course and distance, but when the form line probably is the Sandown listed race between Fallen Angel and Soprano. Soprano was very keen that day. If she settles better, she probably is the one to beat, but she's got a length to find on a filly who was less experienced than her and Fallen Angel going into that, open to a little bit more improvement. They're both Group 1 entered. But I just thought Fallen Angel was the sort of here and now horse, a pedigree, 2-darn hot Dewhurst winner. Agnes Stewart, Filly's Mile runner-up. I think Fallen Angel is probably the right favourite.
Okay, Kills?
I think it's a terrible race, isn't it? You've got to look for an upset here, haven't you? We haven't seen a good 2-year-old filly this year yet, have we, really? What have we seen? I can't think of anything that's really excited me. So, yes, they're the ones to beat Fallen Angel and Soprano, but they come here having both been beaten last time out. They haven't done anything special. I'm going to take a chance on a horse who needs to improve dramatically and has already been beaten by Fallen Angel, and that's Queen's Reign of Ed Walker. She was actually backed against Fallen Angel on Fallen Angel on her debut, but was just way too green. But she won very easily last time. They sent her to the July course as well to break her maiden, obviously with a view to coming back here for this, I'd imagine. It wasn't much of a race, but she did it very easily. She looked a bit more professional. I think there's more to come from her, and she's 16-1. I'm just not excited about the front of the market. I think something will turn them over. I don't know what, so I'm going to have a little crack.
Fair play. I liked Carolina Reaper, but that's probably a great sign to avoid that one. Sorry, Charlie Johnston. We're going to go on to another Shergar Cup race now. It's a 355, the Shergar Cup Classic. A very grandiose name for probably a fairly middling contest. How do you see it, Matt?
Yeah, the Classic should be a mile too, Sean. This is a mile and a half. That's something else that bugs me. But anyway, let's have a look at the betting anyway. So yeah, Rajasthan's your favourite 3-1 for Jonathan Eddie Gosden. That's the amount of Haley move at 9-2. Olivier Perriand for Richard Boy. They're both last time out winners. Like a Tiger, interesting, up to 1.5 miles. Didn't do much quickly at Yarmouth. Was a little bit disappointing with that effort. Haley Turner on board at 6-1. Same price as Rogue. See, Holly Doors on Regal Empire, which is 32. Of course, she's the regular pilot of Intinzo, who's at 7-1 on Luke Morris. So, yeah, classic by name. I'd say classic by nature, but it's 3-2 on the field.
Yeah, fair assessment, Matt. But another open betting heat. Keels, how do you see it?
Yeah, interesting. This Rajasthan favourite purely because it's trained by Jonathan Thady Gosden. Can't see any other reason for it. I think it's the worst handicapped horse in the race. Can anybody tell me when the last time John Gosden or the Gosden Yard trained a winner at the Shergar Cup?
Is this a trick question?
No.
Do you know the answer?
Got a spreadsheet here, but
1999.
Wow. How many runners have they had since then?
Well, it's funny enough, the first ever Shergar Cup was run at Goodwood. And Mr. Gosden really supported it well.
Yeah.
9 runners, 1 winner, a couple of seconds. Since then, he's treated it with the contempt that most punters think it deserves. Didn't have another runner in 2009, and he's only had 6 since then. None of which have won. I just can't have him. I mean, the form of that Salisbury Maiden is absolutely dreadful. The favourite and runner-up was odds on, got beaten at an even shorter price next time out, and the third got thrashed over hurdles next time out. So it's a terrible price just because it's trained by them. Ignore it completely. If it doesn't drift to my arm, a Dutchman. Like a Tiger is the one. He clearly told everybody last time at Yarmouth that he wants 1.5 miles. And James Ferguson said as much in April after he'd won at Newmarket. He just got outpaced and he was running on. He was just staying on and on and on. He's absolutely crying out for this trip. The ground will be on the right side of good for him as well. And I think we're going to see a big improvement. And now he gets the trip he wants.
Excellent. Robbie, you responded so positively.
Yeah,
you just seen the non-vegan options on a cruise ship buffet there.
Gave the peace sign. I think Rajasthan is plenty short enough. Although it's actually one of my favourite curry houses in the city, the Rajasthan. Don't know if you've been there.
Whereabouts is that?
It's in Monument.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would you have a cabbage madras or something?
Cauliflower man, actually. Yeah, like a Tiger, interesting horse. Just been crying.
It was the sheer it was the contempt.
Look disgusted. That actually tastes really nice.
Tandoori mixed grill, mate. Come on.
If that was a side dish, I'd love to get stuck into that. Yeah, like a Tiger, he just needs a mile 4. He had a great Voltager entry earlier in the season. They're obviously dipping a bit lower. He's on a decent mark for sure. The Yarmouth race he ran in the Racing League, was it a Racing League race? I was on the cruise. I did watch it back.
It was, yes. It was,
yeah. Just doubting myself there. But it just wasn't run to suit at all. It was slowly run. Cumulonimbus controlled it from the front. This track, stiff track at Ascot, bit of cut in the ground is exactly what he needs. He's been withdrawn 4 times this summer due to the ground. He needs it slightly slow. He's going to get that dig. And I just think he's a very well handicapped horse. So he'll do.
All right, confident selection for our last race. We're going to be back in a second with our weekend naps. Before we do it, check out our free bets page. Okay, welcome back. It's time for the weekend naps. I am contractually obliged to give you one as well. It's Carolina Reaper for me, but let's speak to the professionals because they're the ones who you want to listen to. Keels, who are you now?
I do like a Tiger, but in the final race at Ascot, where the equine star of the year, Quinault, or one of them, is on show, going for a 7-timer. Issue with him is he doesn't have Conor Planners taken off 5, so he's effectively £12 higher than last time. I think that'll probably be too much, and I think Batal Dubai is the better meeting. With the Magic Man on board for Harry and Roger Charlton, he won at Newcastle on Plate Day, and I backed him that day, and he got denied a run constantly, and the way he cut through the pack there under Oisin Murphy suggests very strongly that he was in a completely different league to his rivals, but he only won ahead. He only went up £4. I think he's probably a 100 horse at least in the making. He's only won 6 times. He's won 3 of them. He seems to like coming off a gallop. There'll be one, and I think he's going to win.
Okay, Robbie.
Nice. 355 at Ascot, like a tiger.
Okay, short and sweet. Matt, yourself?
Other than putting a proposal forward for betting shops on cruise ships, Tis Marvellous in the opener. He won it in 2019. He won it off this mark last year. He's 4 from 10 over track and trip. He'll do for me. Get us off to hopefully a good start in the Shergar Cup.
Excellent, thanks, Matt. We'll be in touch about the cut for the cruise ship idea. We'll talk about that. JV maybe. Okay, so to finish, just a reminder of the fantastic competition we're running. I think it's pretty unlikely that many, or indeed any of the horses running this weekend are going to be heading to the Breeders' Cup, but you could be with this fantastic Racing Post competition. Check it out. Okay, so that's a wrap for this week. What are we doing this weekend, Robbie?
Yeah, just chilling really, mate. Watching the football first week of the Premier League season. Reading my big kickoff the other day. Catching up.
Fantastic. Still get that in the Racing Post shop. racingpost.com/shop.
That is a sound investment. I really enjoyed tucking into that the other day.
Too right, absolutely. Keels?
Football's back, isn't it?
Football's back, yeah.
Don't pay any attention to that rubbish. No, I shall be watching the racing. Look, if you don't like the Shergar Cup, there are 4 other race meetings in the afternoon. Some good races on, plenty of punting action. I shall be watching it somewhere, and maybe keeping Mrs. K company because she broke her ankle a couple of weeks ago and she can't go very far.
Maybe keeping her company.
Maybe, yeah. Well, I'm going to try to get out of it, obviously.
TBD. And Matt, how about you? You got big plans?
Yeah, I'm off to Haydock tomorrow for obviously our Betfred card. We've got a team down in London because we've got the Challenge Cup final. We've got the fight we're sponsoring tomorrow night as well, which obviously wasn't the fight that we wanted. So it's a busy weekend for us here. But personally, I'm off to Haydock tomorrow, and then it's going to enjoy the football first weekend of the Premier League as well. And I agree, big kickoff. It is essential reading.
Fantastic stuff. Thank you so much, Matt. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show as ever. Robbie, Keels, top work, guys. And thank you to you for joining us. Do stay tuned in. We'll be back again next week with more big calls on all the big races. It's been a pleasure. Thanks all.